Guess what came today? Yes, I have a second-hand starter motor that has come off a 1.4 Fiesta Mark III from 1992. It is apparently tested according to this tag in a working order. You as well as I know that buying things on eBay like this is risky. The most important thing is look at the bolts at the end, those two centre bolts. Yes, the brushes on this one can be changed. But the first thing I'm going to do is check whether it actually works. This is a Ford 91AB 11000 DA. The one that I had was a VA, but this will fit my car. There's no changes, there's no differences whatsoever as far as I can see, especially in the solenoid. The solenoid is exactly the same. We're going to test this outside using the very simple method of a battery. Believe it or not, that Lion battery was not dead. I don't know what was going on with the voltage, but it might be a drain. You never know. We'll have to check that there isn't a power drain when we put everything back together. There might have been a dirty connector that I'm going to, or maybe I have already cleaned. But that battery is fully charged. It responded to my smart charger absolutely fine. It's now back up to full strength. It's on green, and we've got a couple of jump leads, and we're going to test this starter motor right outside, sparks and all that. Let's go and have a look and see if it works. Right, just to confirm that it works, we have the Lion battery, which supposedly was dead, and I discovered it's actually not dead. Yeah, I don't know how that's happened, but it's charged up fully and it's on green. It's responded to a smart charge, so this battery definitely isn't dead yet. But we do negative to the ground of the starter, positive in my hand, and we're going to touch the connections. Wear some gloves and go. There we go. Come on, go. Why is it not responding? I think the connection is actually really bad on that solenoid. It is turning, but the connection probably isn't brilliant. But come on, come on. That's not right. That's certainly not right. It's actually not turning. Okay, no problem. Hopefully that is not the case. The motor is well, basically the solenoid is working, but we haven't got any spinning from the motor. I just hope that I haven't bought a dud here. Okay, that's not good. Okay, it's obviously not responding to my hammer either. I've given some good taps and we're not getting anything. If you've got a starter motor with a solenoid that actually works, but the actual motor isn't turning, most likely it's the brushes or it's gummed up. So I'm going to have a look at this. Now, honestly, I bought this for £35 and it says that it was tested. You have to be very careful with this stuff on eBay. It's trial and error. This starter motor will fit a Fiesta. It's come off a 1.4 Fiesta from 1992, so the CVH. So this starter motor will fit. It's got the same bell housing bolts, but in this situation it's not working as it is. I'm a bit annoyed about that, because most people who've bought this, who wouldn't have the skills or knowledge to deal with this, would say I've got to send that back. And the truth be told, I'm feeling like sending it back myself. But since I've got the starter motor, I've got a feeling that it's just dirty brushes. So this is the ultimate video of how can I get my starter motor working if it's not spinning. This is a nice prime example, hopefully. Let's get it on the workbench and start stripping it down. Right, here we go again, round two. So wire brush, I might need them just to cut the tag off. I'm going to keep that tag on until I know that this starter motor works. We are going to clean all this up hopefully, but the first thing, more importantly, is to identify why the motor does not spin on this starter motor. It's nice to see the Ford sticker on them as well. The one and the old one survived quite well. We only need a couple of sockets. We need a Phillips, we need a 10 and a 13, preferably on a 3/8 ratchet, which I've left somewhere, a rag, and just to identify the bolt pattern. These are the old bolts and the old back of the old starter, and it lines up perfectly. So we've got the bolt pattern there and there. It lines up perfectly. It's less of an incline in this one for some reason, but it will fit absolutely fine, and that's the main thing you need to identify. It has, I can identify this, Mark III, 1.4 petrol, 1992, tested. Yeah, under what respect has this been tested? It's possibly been sat for quite a while. You never know these places, and particular parts of these cars. But anyway, the way it works is you may have seen it on the driveway, okay? We have a solenoid here that basically acts on the start. The motor should turn with the solenoid. The solenoid will, on turning the ignition on, will move the actual gear. This is the gear, okay, into line with the ring gear. The ring gear on the flywheel will sit where my finger is, and this will basically pivot into line with the flywheel being pushed by that solenoid on the ignition. So usually the solenoids don't usually fail, actually. It's usually the other way around. But this one's quite interesting. It's got a bolt that goes through here, so maybe I can't actually use this, use the old one with this one. But that's okay. I cleaned the old one up and I've got the old one. There is only slight design variations. But when you actually crank the car, turn the key to the third one, the third turn of the key, I should say, the motor should spin, and it should spin the gear. But what's happening here is we've got the solenoid clicking and moving that gear into position. Excuse me. But the motor isn't working. And most likely, I think the culprit is at this end. So, first thing really that I'm going to do is we're going to take a couple of the connections off. We have got a connection from the solenoid into the starter via this point. We just need to take off this, I believe it's a 13mm. I have to use bubble wrap here to protect my desk. It may be a little bit tight initially, but once you get it going, it will come off nice and easy. And this is a 12 to get this this small little nut off, so just drop that nut over there, and the connection should be sort of released a little bit, but it might be a bit stiff. We'll just take this 10mm off. Take that 10mm straight off. Might be a bit rusty at the end. There we go. We've got some sort of I don't know what sort of cap that is, but nice. I'll just move that out the way. Okay, I just wanted to have all that disconnected because we're going to have to get to the back here. And I believe at the back, I do apologise because the starter motor is quite top heavy on this one. Again, we have two 10mm bolts. Take them out to loosen the solenoid, I should say. There you go, there's one. I seem to have a bit of a problem with starter motors recently. Usually I have very good luck with them. Right, that nut has just sort of fallen off. And now the solenoid is actually quite free. Now, this is actually very, very different to the other one. We've got a spring at the end instead of that's interesting, it protrudes quite rapidly. Right, we're going to leave that in there because we can't really take that off because it's actually connected to a fork which is connected to the main motor assembly. So we're going to pay attention to the end. So we're going to take, mainly ignore these little Phillips screws, we'll deal with them in a bit. 2 10mm. Once they're cracked, they come out quite easily. You might have to hold the alternator with one hand while cracking it with the ratchet there. So, as usual. Now this is quite interesting because these bolts, quite long, they go all the way along the length. Now the other one, the other starter motor had these 2 bolts on the outside, if you can recall what it looked like, and I did show you. Sometimes it's 2 different designs. This one has bolts that go through the inside of the body, but most starter motors that I've seen, which are much smaller, actually have the bolts on the outside. It kind of suggests that this starter motor takes a bit more juice, but that's usual. And we'll just whip the other one out. If I just turn it round. Someone's written something on it. I don't know what that is. There we go. There's your two long bolts. Now this means that the body is should be kind of free. I've got a feeling I might have to take them screws out, but we'll see. Let's say they're two Phillips screws that hold this end plate on. Take the end cap off. Okie dokie. Now we've got this end seal here. Right. So that reveals a bit of a spring there. So I'm assuming that's allowed to basically, this part of the body actually comes apart because you can see there's a crack developing. It's really, really tight. There we go, it's gone. Because these two long bolts were holding everything together. And now, there we go, we've got this end cap. It's gonna come off, there we go. Now what will happen is the entire motor is gonna fight, because here we've got a magnet. That's part of the motor assembly. Okay, you've got a commutator that runs on a magnet, and that's how an electric motor works. So if we just pull this out, really hard. This brush cap is actually kind of fighting me a little bit at the moment. I've got a feeling, right, this is something new to me. There's a circlip at the end, take it out, because that is what is holding the whole thing. I just need to get my, well, as I say, I've got a screwdriver here. Just take the circlip out. There we go, circlip out. That's something new. You've got a spring that comes out. Now, there we go. That's why it won't come off. Ugh, stupid. Right, now we can see the problem, potentially. Okay, right. Now, as you can see here, we've got the brush pack. So you can see the brushes. Now, I've pushed this brush pack up because you can see where the brushes touch the commutator. Okay. Now, usually the reason why starter motors don't work is because the brushes have worn down. But as you can see, there's a lot of life left in these brushes. All of them. All of them. That one on that side hasn't quite popped off. But basically, to get this back over, you'd have to put a screwdriver down to leer those brushes over the commutator again. That's the problem I had with the old one. You couldn't physically do it. It was literally, you take it apart and that's it. It wasn't designed to be. It wasn't designed to be. This was. But I've got a feeling there's no physical way for me to detach the solenoid from the fork. Now, this commutator does actually move. It comes out. The problem is I can't see a way of getting the fork back on. So it might be one of those things. I have to leave that in position. But I've just looked at this and I'm going to do some research to see whether I can get a replacement, because it looks like they're connected to these plastic reinforcements on the side. I don't know whether they come out, and I can't at the moment see how they come apart. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to look up this parts number, and this is something I recommend. Look at the parts number, do some research on eBay, and come back to the table and decide what you're going to do. If I can get some spare brushes for this and I can remove this, which is perfectly removable, then I will replace these. Clean it up, put them back in. If I can't, I'll leave them in situ. What I'm going to have to do is clean all this up, because I've got a feeling we've also got a poor connection to the solenoid. So I'm going to clean all this up. It may, from what I can see here, it just needs a clean. I think that all this starter motor needs is a clean, and it should be working. I don't see any reason why that shouldn't work. It's quite a simple system. If this breaks, then clearly that would cause the issue. So I'm going to have a hot chocolate and get back to you after half an hour of research. A search on the internet has found the correct brushes for this starter motor for a 91AB 11000 DA. But guess what? So we have the earth connection to the solenoid, which basically you get the power through that connection. It goes through there to the brushes. That's how the motor gets its power, through there. Okay. We've got the two brushes that are connected to the brush pack, but two of them, oh yes, you guessed right,
I think they have to be soldered. We've got one here and the one on the other side. So this means we can replace them, but with a bit of faffing. I am going to extract that brush pack and give this motor a thorough clean. And this is how we go about it. Right, what I'm going to do, I'm going to point this out to you. So this one, it looks like it might be just like soldered in or something, okay, into this plastic holder, and then that basically that is connected to the magnet. And there's one on this side, and there's one on the other side, okay. Now to release the whole brush pack, this is what's stopping us from doing so. What we need to do is release this spring. This spring holds this brush against the commutator, okay, it holds it in place, okay, because that's your connection from the wire into the brush. What we have to do is push this off the post. Come on, let's go. There we go. There we are. Off it goes. We now have the spring off. Now I'm going to put that over there, okay, don't lose that. This brush is now free. Get it out. There we go. Right, I'm going to deal with this and see what needs to be done. I've got a feeling it needs to be soldered in. But we've got plenty of life left in these. I think it just needs a solid clean. Oh, look how loose it is. Right, now we just repeat the same on the other side, although this connection is rather loose. This might be the whole problem. I reckon this connection here is actually dirty. So again, we'll have a look at that. I've got a feeling, why won't that release? Now I've got a feeling that that is actually tied in. I'll have a look at that in a second. But next one, get this off. Whoops, not that one. We want this one. I'm going to have to use two hands for this because you can see how wiggly it is, but do exactly the same on this side. Okay, so that's off. Brilliant. Come on, get out, get out, get out. Lovely. Right, that's completely free now. Now, to release this from this, it's really stuck, this is. It looks like it's almost one piece, but it isn't. It isn't, I can assure you. Again, just get a pick, if I can actually find it. It's right in front of me. And just break that bond. See if we can do it here. There we go. It's, oh, that's not particularly good. I'm going to have a look at this connection. I'm not particularly happy with this. Just be careful. The solenoid is actually used. It's actually really stuck on. Oh my God. I'll come back when I can get... Oh, hold on. It's come off. Has it come off? Yes. Come on. No. Oh, for goodness sake. There we go. Right, it's completely off. Okay. Springs and brush pack. These brushes, particularly these two ones, they just look dirty. They are a bit misshapen, but my God, that's an awful lot of carbon on the end of that, so I'm going to have to clean that. But it will be cleaned. There's nothing wrong there. There's no breakages there. That's clearly soldered as well. That's clearly in place as well. You just look for breakages. But where these brushes are soldered to the actual block, nah. Okay, no problem. We'll clean that, and I've got a feeling that connection is not particularly good. We're going to clean that as well. There's a bit of free play in this. Oh my goodness, it's come out. Oh, that's really good. Ah, right. So guys, you see that that U bend. Ah, right. So how does that link to here? Right, okay. See up here, there's a rod it presses on, so you basically push down and up. Hey, we could take the whole thing out now. Can we? Let me have a look. I'm not so sure we can actually. Well, that's a very interesting way of getting it out. Unless I'm mistaken, and you can... I wonder if you can smash these apart. Maybe I've been staring the answer in the face. Oh, it breaks apart, you idiot, Andrew. Literally. They just come apart. Right, I can show you how it works now. My God. So, guys, we have the motor that's just come out. We have the fork that does this in a pendulum style. What, honestly, I saw this bushing, and basically it comes out like that, the whole thing. There you go. The solenoid will push the ring gear into line. Ignition off, ignition on, ignition off. It's simple as that. I'm going to give that a bit of a clean up. That's the fork. Now, usually they're plastic. It was in the other one. It's not in this one. It's metal. This suggests that this starter motor was made for stronger applications. Well, it might take a bit more power, but that will be ideal for me. So I'm going to put that over there, and we're going to give that a bit of a clean out. It's all going to go in the parts washer now. And as we can see here, this is the magnet. This part of the body is the magnet. We have the gear here. I'm just going to take it completely out. In fact, that's not right. That's too easy. Okay, I think I've discovered potentially the problem. So we've got a very muddy and dirty magnet here. That's not catching. That didn't feel like it was pulling on the magnet. Okay, we've got this gear here. It twists. Okay, there's a gear down here, and it twists this little gear. So it doesn't go straight forward into the line of the flywheel. It twists to allow the teeth to line up. Very clever. Now, I don't know if you can see in here, but we've got some score marks. It's actually dirt. See all these lines here where my finger is? I'm going to come round. See all these lines here? That's dirt. This needs a complete and utter clean out in the parts washer. I think we've discovered why this starter motor doesn't work. This magnet is absolutely filthy. This commutator isn't going to enjoy it. Oh, by the way, this is where the brushes run on the commutator. It's nice and clean there, actually. It's not too dirty, but it's all going to have to be... Oh, God. Maybe I could use the petrol. Don't panic. I've only just bought it in. I've been doing all this intoxicating cleaning outside. I'm going to take it out the petrol. And I'll tell you what, I recommend petrol for really nasty gummed up objects like starter motors. I really do. You need to take it out the petrol, clean it off, let it air dry thoroughly. Petrol does evaporate quickly. And then we can reassemble. Right, as you can see, everything has been completely and utterly cleaned and dried. Honestly, it's come up really well. Even the sticker has survived the fuel. Yeah, well, as I say, we've let it all sort of evaporate as such. We can always go over with some contact cleaner, and we will do so in certain places. But, you know, even what we call, well, the bell housing of the starter motor is all nice and clean. You know, the end cap. The solenoid, I've just taken this rubber boot off just to clean around the return spring, because basically, essentially, it just that, you know, it just pushes back out. So we'll pop that back over that hook. Now, when we're installing this together, one thing, the fork, okay, will basically sit like this and pivot like that. What you've got to do is you've got to get the solenoid in a position where you just got to turn that for a start. Okay, you've got to have the arrows pointing that way, and we're just going to hook on like that. Okay, see that little hook there? We're just going to hook on. Okay, and that's what's happening basically. So just for a guide, first of all, and then obviously this, we're going to go around with some contact spray again, because I want to make sure that this is clean. This is where the main contact is made to operate the motor. Give it a general just clean off. Okay, it's not the cleanest of rags this, but it will do for now. Okay, so now that is now squeaky bum clean, and that's precisely what you want. There's still some fragments of dirt stuck in here. The other thing to watch out for this side, okay, now we've still got some grease that's coming out of that gear. That's absolutely fine. What I would do though is, some people are going to say, oh, but you need to grease all the gears off. No, because that's actually what causes problems. The grease is actually, I'm not being funny, I don't agree with grease in a lot of ways. For me, grease just is a lazy, it's like people who grease. I know there are people that have done this, that are probably watching me, but greasing battery terminals, that's not a good thing to do, because you imagine over time all that dirt in the engine bay is going to stick to that grease, and then your battery terminals will get all clogged and nasty, and then you end up with bad battery problems. There's your answer. Don't put the grease on. Just keep it clean in the first place. But my answer is just a little bit of GT85 in and around the gears as well. Just a little bit, okay? So that's nice and free, and there is no issues with this whatsoever. Obviously, the return spring goes at the end of the end cap. It goes there. Everything has been cleaned, including like these. I'll tell you, petrol. Petrol is actually cheaper than degreaser, by the way, but you have to use it appropriately. The truth is it appropriate to be using it? In this circumstance, it's done a fantastic job. And just make sure you do a bit of sanding around, not this contact, this contact. We need that to be clean, okay? It's the main contact between the motor and the solenoid itself, okay? And these bolts literally just really, really clean. I'm just going to go over with a bit of a wire brush, but just to clean the threads up a little bit. The brush is fantastic. There's nothing wrong with it. Literally just a shave of dirt came straight off. These brushes are fine. Now, basically, there is a specification to say how long the brushes have to be before you condemn it. But really, honestly, what you need to look at is to make sure that these brushes are not falling out of these holders. And I'll tell you something, there is so much life left in these, it's untrue. You have to push I'm going to have to push these way back to get it over this commutator, because essentially you're going to be trying to just push them over. Just ease that on there. So, I mean, that's what I'm going to have to do when I put it all back together. You're going to have to push it with a flat blade screwdriver in order to do this. But anyway, that's done. The magnet is nice and clean, as you can see on the inside. This is the contact. You know, you just want to make sure these are clean. These soldered brushes, they are soldered to these posts, so I'd have to do a bit of resoldering if I wanted to replace the whole thing. You can replace it, which is good, so hopefully this all works. And then the next owner has got a starter motor. If he has problems, he can get the new brushes, but it's all nice and clean in there. Really, really clean, and that's the aim. The end cap is just a slightly little piece of metal, and you've got this, well, the big end cap. This is a small one that goes there, but yeah, that's nice and clean as well. So we are ready to go. Let's get on with it. Okay, first bit, all we have to do is put the fork on. The fork goes in this section here, okay? It literally just, it goes in this section, and then we can just assemble it straight in, okay? Now, all you have to do is get it all lined up and put it straight down. Now, it may want to jump off. This thing actually may want to jump off. That's absolutely fine. But we've got to make sure that it's all sort of lined in there. Yeah, that's good. Now it wants to jump off. It's a bit faffy, this. There you go. So, there we go. Lovely. Right, we've just got a bit of rubber that's just come off. We just put that rubber. It's just a piece of rubber that just slots into here. So you just got to get that actual fork slotted into this hole, and it is in the right position. So just pop this down. God, this is a bit of a pain, isn't it? It's tight. It has to be tight. It has to stop dirt getting in. There we go. Right, we're in a position now where that is held in, and if I just do this, there we go. Lovely. I've just pushed the fork in and it's just pushed the gear in. Right, we are now nicely set. And if I push the fork in again, there we go. Straight. Fantastic. Lovely. And that's what we want. Lovely. Now, the next bit is this housing. Now, I've got a feeling well, obviously the brushes have to go on this end, okay? Now, there is a slot. Yeah, there's a slot here. Make sure that slot lines up with here at the bottom of this fork, okay? I'm trying to orientate it so you can see exactly what I'm doing, but this is quite a hefty thing. Now, oh, there's a bit, yeah, there's quite a magnetic force on that now. There wasn't before. That's what cleaning has done. Yeah, okay, lovely. And we can just place it in as thus. There we go. It's slotted in really, really nice. You might need to just give it a tap with a hammer just to line it in, because it is a bit tight. No wonder it didn't want to come off before, but there we go. We've got that all lined in. There we go. All nicely rotating in there. Right, the next bit, obviously, now, I don't really want this to come apart too far, but the next bit is simply the brush pack. Now, the brush pack, I'm just going to hold that there. Now, we know what we've got to do to get this on. Now, the two brushes that are connected, they will go, see, the brushes that are connected to the, well, soldered to the actual body, they're at, well, as you could see it, 3 o'clock and 9 o'clock. So we've got to make sure that the two brushes on here are at 12 and 6. It's as simple as that. Now, the thing is, the solenoid is going to go here, obviously. So you need that lead needs to go at 12 o'clock. And the one down there, so basically, you need it kind of, that needs to be kind of pointing up here. So we know which way it's going to be orientated. So clearly, that strap is obviously going to go at the top. So this one will also be at 12 o'clock. So it will go in like that. Okay, that's the way it will go in. So, well, it won't go in like that because we need the back, because these are what the two Phillips screws screw to. So we need the back side facing, well, it's going to be facing you. So let's see if we can just shape this over. Now it might take a bit. Well, I've got one brush in with my finger. See if I can actually push it in. Where's my pick? I'll get a pick. Get the pick and just, I know you can't see much of this, but push the brush back. There we go. It's gone over. There you go. It's gone over. We've now forced it over. Okie dokie dokie. Lovely. Right. We've now got to take, well, we're forgetting that. We've got to take this motor out a little bit, okay? Just a little bit. We don't want to remove it completely, okay? All we need to do is remove the motor so that we can push these soldered brushes back in. Okay, so you can see what I'm doing. So this is the soldered one. We have to push this back in here. There we go. Lovely. And it should just nicely sit in there. Now, we need to put the spring back on. Now we need to just basically put this under spring pressure and then just put it back on its post. It's going to take a few fingers. So, yeah, but that's how you do this on both sides. And then it should just snap in, and then we should push the whole thing back. Nice. Oh, my goodness me. What an absolute pain that was. I've managed to get the spring back on, and it's nicely seated against the bush. By the way, I've had to take it off the commutator again. So I've had to pull it forwards. We've got to push all 4 bushes back in. And my God, getting that spring on. What you've got to do is make sure it's sitting like that and it's firmly against the post. And it's pushed the bushing in, so I know that the spring is working well. But you may have to sort of get some pliers and just bend the spring open a little bit. And then you can sort of twist it onto that post. Make sure it's sitting against the actual brush and then slide it onto the post. But it does require 2 hands. We've got past that. But now we've got to get these 4 brushes pushed in and past the commutator. This might take some goes. So we've got one. Get that one. Come on. Oh, dearie me, it's fighting me. This could take several goes to get right. fighting, mate. No, that's one. But when you've got one pushes off. So you've got to keep on persevering a little bit. You can get a pick in, and this will kind of help matters. Oh, come on. You can understand why most garages will just basically, oh, you need another starter motor, because it is labour intensive to do something like this. I'd only recommend this sort of job if you want to keep it pretty original, or just the fact that the older starter motors are generally better than the aftermarket ones, because that is always the case, I think. Right, we've got 2 over, we've got 3, yay, it's on. You have to keep fighting. When you push one in, then another pops out, then you push one in, then another pops out. But now we're all in, and this rubber plug goes over this slot here, so we could just probably line it up like that. Perfect. I will give this a bit of a clean, this piggy tail, but we're in, and we just need to give this a bit of a lasting clean. Right, so we need to orientate it so this little cutout goes over there. Come on, just line it through. I've got to say, actually, this is something that I've actually missed. There's actually a bit of crud right at the end. And yeah, most garages don't want comebacks, which is why this sort of job is just not done these days. It used to be a service requirement to, oh, you just need to replace the brushes. And usually it is that problem. In this one, I've got a feeling it still is the brushes, but we won't know until this all goes back together. But what I can say is, I don't think there's anything obvious whatsoever that's wrong with this. All clean, ready to go. Let's orientate it. Come on. Give it a bit of a twiddle. There we go. And just give it a bit of a tap. There we go. It's all lined in. It's quite a tight casing. In fact, the rubber wants to come back out, so I'll just do that again. Don't know why that's actually, oh, come on, go in. There we go. Actually, it's gone in. It's just the rubber was a bit taut. You've just got to have the rubber sitting like that, and then that's all good then. Right, now, assuming with this shaft, now that shaft needs to come out a little bit more. We've got to just give it a bit of a push. What I will do at this stage is put these bolts in. Oops. There we go. I've lined one in. Just do it loosely, and then the next bolt, just give it a bit of a wiggle. Should go through. There we go. Lovely. Just wind it in by hand. I mean, it's very unlikely that you're going to encounter this exact starter motor, but you'll know which one to rebuild if you've got a Fiesta of this age or whatever. Mostly Mark III Fiestas or Escorts with a 1.4 CVH, which is what you'll find this one. Mind you, it is a little bit bulkier than what I've expected elsewhere. But anyway, and what I'm going to do is just push the shaft up. So yeah, honestly, it's probably going to be useless to you, but at least you've seen how a starter motor is put together. And this is what they do when they rebuild it. They give it a bit of a shot blast, you know, change the brushes, that sort of thing. Now, so the end of this shaft is now sticking out. Just push my finger on this end, and now you can see where the circuit goes. What you've got to do is put the spring over. Got a return spring, and then put the C-clip over. Then this might take a bit of fighting, because what's going to happen is the shaft is going to want to go back. So just, nope, it's gone backwards again. Tricky one, this. So if I turn this, and then just prop this over. Now, what I'm going to have to do is put a screwdriver in at one side to just hold the shaft still. Because what's happening, the shaft is going backwards. There we go. I'll use my shoulder. Oh, come on. There. Oh, no, it's not gone in. That spring is not happy. There we go. The spring is in. Might have to give that a bit of a twist because it's not entirely happy. There we go. Take that out. There we go. There we go. Brilliant. That C-clip is now in place. We can now put the end cap back on and a couple of screws. It's good. Good. And all these two screws are tight as well, which hold the brushes in place. And it's all looking good. This is not looking good as well. This is looking very, very nice. Well, let's finish it off, shall we? Let's put this straight in. Now, to note, this has got to sit like here. So this solenoid here, right, this is the main feed that the starter cable attaches to, okay? Don't worry about this one. It's this one we need to pay attention to. That needs to go on the one with a little bit of a metal sort of cable on it or whatever. But that goes on there. Well, in fact, what we'll do is put it in. Remember, we just hook this in. We might have to twist this just to get it orientated. So that goes there. So we'll just twist that so it's in the right orientation. It should, theoretically, should be able to go in. Now remember, we've got to get those two bolts lined up as well. So it's all looking decent at the moment. Now, what you might have to do, now I'm coming from a sideways angle here, you may have to just move the starter gear forwards. Can we move it? Can we bring that forwards? Get a screwdriver in and bring the whole thing forwards. There we go. Sorry, it requires just flicking up. Now, what I want you to do is just stick a screwdriver in there so that it keeps the gear at the back. That will force the fork to the front. So you should be able to theoretically do this. Might take a few attempts, mind you. Paining screws back over. It will be forceful, this solenoid. So just push it back in against the spring. And there you go. And put the other one back on as well. And that is the solenoid on. All we need to do is just touch this connection in. I'm sorry if the lighting isn't incredibly good on this video, but I'm fighting against the dying of the light at this time of the year. And yes, it seems to be getting dark awfully quickly these days. And it's quite depressing for those people who want to work on their cars. That connection, by the way, just make sure that it goes over here. Okay, right, and we need the smaller bolt. Okay, just this little tiny one, and it just goes straight back over, so it should be absolutely fine. Just whip it back over. Just whip that over there. That's a 13. Just put that 13 back on. I did keep everything on the old starter, so I've got everything, but I've got another 13 mil somewhere that I could probably use for this. But just pop that on there for now. Right, and then we're done. Right, this is now ready. We're now going to test this outside before it goes pitch black and see if by cleaning very thoroughly we have made a difference to this starter motor. Fingers crossed. Okay, this is it. Touch wood. Well, that's really strange. The solenoid is working, but the motor doesn't seem to be working. Why is that not working? Do you know what? We all have days like this where everything seems to go absolutely fine apart from the final result. I've got to check to make sure that that battery is fully charged, but I'm pretty sure that that battery should be enough to start that. I'm gonna get another battery to test this starter. Right, good old USA out of Beatrix. My torch there. Here we bloody go. Fingers crossed, guys. Yes! Yes! Yay! Brilliant. Oh, that's fantastic. Okay, first time. Well done, USA. Lion battery. Absolutely couldn't pull the skin off a rice pudding. This is how you rebuild a starter motor.
For those of you who are confused, that battery was condemned in a very early episode by my battery tester, but it did respond to the smart charger. So it has a bad cell, but it could power things up like an electric fan, for instance. I tested that on the battery, but clearly a starter motor is beyond a battery that clearly has a bad cell. So my battery tester isn't lying. That battery is actually good as an accessories battery or a small tester battery. If not, I've always wanted one, but one that I'd never really want for a car. So yeah, a battery, maybe a USA one. Excide is another name. We don't need a USA battery for this car. It doesn't take that much electricity. In fact, I think the starter motor, from the size of this, is probably going to be the most power consuming thing of the lot. Anyway, you take care, guys. I shall see you very soon.